Yashoda Nandana Braja Nandana Yashoda Nandana Braja Nandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivara Chakacharya Shodhara Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivara Chakacharya Shodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti. All glories to Association of Devotees, all glories to Association of Devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, all glories to Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today is the disappearance day of Srila Sanatana Goswami and Guru Vyasadev's appearance day. So I'm gonna say my prayers. I'm gonna speak on them before Bhagavatam. So Om Agyanati Mirandasya Ganandana Salakaya Shakshu Om Nitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhisam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bande Ham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Saharagunapitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakanvitam Shah Nama Om Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Tinamane Nama Om Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasisa Sunivadi Pasha Chidashitarne Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasi Gaurabhatavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hartalingaya Namaste Namo Antarvamane Namaha Punya Lokaya Mushmabi Pashase Pavitaya Nivitaya Pachitavikamani Namo Dhamavipakaya Mitvitikdaja. So today is the disappearance day of Srila Sanatana Goswami. As we all know, he's one of the 6 Goswamis. He's the older brother of Rupa Goswami, and he was a prominent government official before he joined the movement of Lord Chaitanya. And like I said, it's a brief class, so it's going to be like a crash course. So Srila Sanatana Goswami, when he met Lord Chaitanya, he was not clean shaven, nor was he wearing clean clothes, but Lord Chaitanya still embraced him. And Sanatana Goswami, he told the Lord not to touch me, but the Lord said that the Lord said he's touching him for his own benefit, for the Lord's benefit, which is extremely merciful. And then he told him that Sanatana Goswami's devotional service is so powerful that by himself he can deliver a whole universe. So, he's very, very powerful acharya. And there's a famous, if y'all read the Teaching Lord Chaitanya? Some of y'all know. And there's a famous conversation between him, Srila Sanatana Goswami, and Lord Chaitanya. And although Sanatana Goswami had high prestige, he asked the Lord, he had a lot of academic qualification, but he asked the Lord, who am I? And what activities will perform in a liberated state? And this interaction is very important for devotees, because we should approach the spiritual master with humility, regardless of our material or spiritual qualifications. Sanatana Goswami, he's a liberated soul, but yet he still was extremely humble and inquired the meaning of life from Lord Chaitanya. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered the brothers Sanatana Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami to go to Vrindavan and do four specific things, 4 services, which is to uncover Sri Krishna's pastimes, install deities, compile bhakti scriptures, and propagate the rules of devotional life. And this Radha Madan Mohan Mandir was the first actually temple opened in Vrindavan by one of the 6 Goswamis. I actually visited this temple. It's very beautiful, very exquisitely made. I think it was the Pujari or one of the people there was telling us that the Muslim invaders were trying to break this temple down, but they couldn't do it. It was completely protected by Lord Chaitanya. And Sanatana Goswami is considered the crest jewel of the Gaudiya Vaishnava scholars. He made significant literary contribution with his Hari Bhakti Vilas, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and Brihad Vaishnava Toshini. I think we have these books actually in our library. So yes, Sanatana Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis. I wish I could spend more talking about him, but a very prominent figure. And this is Parents' Day. And today is also Guru Purnima. which is pretty much the appearance day of Srila Vyasadeva. And as we all know, Srila Vyasadeva is a literary incarnation of Krishna. You know, he compiled the Vedas, the Puranas, epic Mahabharata, and Vedanta Sutra. And ultimately, in Kali Yuga, people are just less intelligent. We can't actually understand all the imports of the Vedic sastras, but he divided the Vedas to make it more understandable for the less intelligent classes of people. And literally, this seat is called the Vyasa Sun, which literally translates as the seat of Vyasadeva. So, you know, it's a great responsibility for whoever sitting here to speak the message that Srila Vyasadeva spoke. That's in line with the Guru Parampara. And this Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. So I'm begging for his mercy that I could speak something pleasing to devotees here that's in line with the Guru Parampara. So, yeah, Sanatan Goswami ki jai, Guru Purnima ki jai. All right, so I'm getting the Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 20. You can go to the word for word. Tata evacha anye naraloka viraha ye ahave Krishna mukha aravindam netrayi pibantaha nayana abhiramam partha ashta putaha param apuhu asya tataiva chanye naraloka vira tataiva chanye naraloka vira ya ahave Krishna mukaravindam ya ahave Krishna mukaravindam netrayi pibanto nayanabhiramam netrayi pibanto nayanabhiramam partashta puta param apurasya partashta puta param apurasya tataiva chanye naraloka vira ya ahave Krishna mukaravindam netrayi pibanto nayanabhiramam partashta puta param apurasya. Please repeat. Tataiva chanye naraloka vira ya ave Krishna mukaravindam netrayi pibanto nayanabhiramam tataiva chanye naraloka vira ya ave Krishna mukaravindam netrayi pibanto nayanabhiramam partashta puta paramapurasya tataiva chanye naraloka vira ya ahave Krishna mukaravindam netrayi pibanto nayanabhiramam partashta puta paramapurasya tataiva chanye naraloka vira ya ave Krishna mukaravindam
पिबन्तो नयनाभिरामम् पार्थास्तभूतपदमापुरस्य
तथैव चान्ये नरलोकवीरा य आहावे कृष्णमुखारविन्दम् नैत्रैः पिबन्तो नयनाभिरामम् पार्थास्त्रपुत्तः पदमापुरस्य
तदैव चान्ये नरलोकवीरा न य आहवे कृष्णमुखारविन्दम् नेत्रे पिबन्तो नयनाभिरामम् पार्थास्त्रपूतपदमापुरस्य
Mataji. Lokaviram Yahve Krishna Mukaravindam
तथैव चान्ये नरलोकवीरा य आहावे कृष्णमुखारविन्दम् नैत्रैः पिबन्तो नयनाभिरामम् पार्थास्त्रपूतपदमापुरस्य तथैव चान्ये नरलोकवीरा य आहावे कृष्णमुखारविन्दम् नैत्रैः पिबन्तो नयनाभिरामम्
Okay, word for word translation. Tata, as also. Evacha, and certainly. Anye, others. Naraloka, human society. Viraha, fighters. Ye, those. Ahave, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Krishna, Lord Krishna's. Mukha Aravindam, face like a lotus flower. Netrayi, with the eyes. Pibantaha, while seeing. Nayana, Abhiramam, very pleasing to the eyes. Partha, Arjuna. Astra, Putaha, purified by arrows. Padam, abode. Apuhu, achieved. Asya, of him. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Certainly others who were fighters on the battlefield Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows. And while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord. Purport. The Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, appears in this world for two missionary purposes, to deliver the faithful and to annihilate the miscreants. But because the Lord is absolute, his two different kinds of actions, although apparently different, are ultimately one and the same. His annihilation of a person like Shishupal is as auspicious as his actions for the protection of the faithful. All the warriors who fought against Arjuna, but who were able to see the lotus-like face of the Lord on the battlefront, achieved the abode of the Lord exactly as the devotees of the Lord do. The words pleasing to the eyes of the seer are very significant. When the warriors from the other side of the battlefield saw Lord Krishna at the front, they appreciated his beauty, and their dormant instinct of love of God was awakened. Shishupal saw the Lord also, but he saw him as an enemy, and his love was not awakened. Therefore, Shishupal achieved oneness with the Lord by merging in the impersonal glare of his body called the Brahmajyoti. Others who were in the marginal position, being neither friends nor enemies, but slightly in love with Godhead, by appreciating the beauty of his face, were at once promoted to the spiritual planets, the Vaikunthas. The Lord's personal abode is called Goloka Vrindavan, and the abodes where his plenary expansions reside are called the Vaikunthas, where the Lord is present as Narayana. Love of Godhead is dormant in every living entity, and the entire process of devotional service unto the Lord is meant for awakening this dormant eternal love of Godhead. But there are degrees of such transcendental awakening. Those whose love of God is awakened to the fullest extent go back to Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky, whereas persons who have just awakened the love of Godhead by accident or association are transferred to the Vaikuntha planets. Especially, there's no material difference between Goloka and Vaikuntha, but in the Vaikunthas, the Lord is served in unlimited opulence, where in Goloka, the Lord is served in natural affection. This love of God is awakened by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. Here the word partashtra putaha is significant. Those who saw the beautiful face of the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified first by Arjuna when he made his onslaught with arrows. The Lord appeared for the mission of diminishing the burden of the world, and Arjuna was assisting the Lord by fighting on his behalf. Arjuna personally declined to fight, and the whole instruction of the Bhagavad Gita was given to Arjuna to engage him in the fight. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna agreed to fight in preference to his own decision, and thus Arjuna fought to assist the Lord in his mission of diminishing the burden of the world. All the activities of a pure devotee are executed on behalf of the Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord has nothing to do for his personal interests. Arjuna's killing was as good as killing by the Lord himself. As soon as Arjuna shot an arrow at an enemy, that enemy became purified of all material contaminations and became eligible to be transferred to the spiritual sky. Those warriors who appreciated the lotus feet of the Lord and saw his face at the front had their dormant love of God awakened, and thus they were transferred at once to Vaikuntha Loka, not to the impersonal state of Brahmajyoti, as was Shishupal. Shishupal died without appreciating the Lord, while others died with appreciation of the Lord. Both were transferred to the spiritual sky, but those who awakened to the love of God were transferred to the planets of the transcendental sky. Uddhava seemingly lamented that his own position was less than that of the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because they had attained to Vaikuntha, whereas he remained to lament the disappearance of the Lord. So this is a really static translation and purport. I'll actually read the translation again. Certainly others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows, and while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord. So there's like many things you can extrapolate from this purport. Mitravan Prabhu graciously gave an exposition on Shishupal's liberation. I think that was on Friday. So I'm not going to speak too much about that, but I will speak on this first point that Prabhupada makes, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the purport, the very first sentence, Sri Krishna appears in this world for two missionary purposes: to deliver the faithful and annihilate the miscreants. So, I mean, the first question could be asked, who is considered the faithful? You know, and ultimately in the Nectar Devotion, it says there's different degrees of faith. But in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says that one is a faithful man that simply by thinking that you can attain the highest perfection, then that's like considered faithful. Yes, simply by thinking that acting Krishna conscious you can attain the highest perfection, this is called faithful. So, Krishna comes down to protect those who have this preliminary faith of understanding that just by appreciating Krishna or chanting his glories, you can attain the highest perfection. And actually, there's a name in Vishnu Sahasranam named Shanta, and His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami, he elaborated on this name in this very seat. And Shanta is, does anybody remember? Shanta, you remember? Yeah, it's it was like very, it's not something, huh? No. That's peaceful. Shanta. It's another. He explained that. So Shanta means he who extends himself down to pick us up. So this is what Krishna does. When he comes down to this material world, he comes down to pick us up, those who are faithful. Even the miscreants, he picks up the miscreants too. Because ultimately, Krishna's greatest glory is the fact that he wants to give himself to his devotees. That's his greatest glory. He's considered it's his Bhakta Vatsalya. He's a protector of the devotees. He's also Kripana Vatsalya. Those who are misers, he even lifts them up. As you see in this purport, those who just saw Krishna, although they're miserly, just by appreciating his beauty, they attain liberation. So, Krishna, he extends himself down to pick up the fallen souls from this material world, ultimately out of love. Krishna performs these pastimes to ultimately attract us to him because he loves us. He knows that there's no happiness in this world. All the happiness lies in the spiritual planet. So he performs these beautiful pastimes just to attract us towards his abode. And like I said, Krishna gives himself to his devotees. You see this picture of Gajendra over here. Hari, the incarnation of Krishna, Hari, back to the point of Shanta, him stretching himself down, Guru Maharaj explains that when he was in his abode, even without putting on all his paraphernalia, he rushed down to save Gajendra. Gajendra was in such a distressed condition, and just off the plea of his cry, Krishna stretches himself down and picked Gajendra up. So this is the topmost quality of Krishna, that he gives himself to his devotee. He stretches himself down to pick us up. But if you really want to understand Krishna's pastimes, the ultimate reason why he performs his pastimes in the material world is for his own enjoyment. Ultimately, Krishna is, Bhaktaram Yogatapasam Sarva Lokam Eswaram. Everything he does is for his own enjoyment. But he enjoys picking us up. He enjoys because we perform intimate, he enjoys these intimate relationships with his devotees. Krishna enjoys coming down, and he enjoys killing demons, and he enjoys liberating them. So it's interesting because, it says that he comes to deliver the faithful and annihilate the miscreants. And in Kali Yuga, ultimately, Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya. And he annihilates the miscreants not necessarily with, weapons, but it's said in 11th Canto, he does it with his beauty. The greatest, Krishna's weapon in Kali Yuga is through Lord Chaitanya is his beauty. He's so beautiful. And his holy name, you see when we go out in Harinam, people you see, fallen low class, they're still clapping. They're clapping, they're dancing, because people are attracted to this transcendental vibration. People are attracted to the Krishna Prasadam. People are attracted to devotees. Lord Chaitanya is beautiful. And ultimately, there's no difference ultimately between book distribution and there's no difference between book distribution and Harinam. So when we perform Harinam, because that's the Yuga Dharma, there's age when we perform Harinam, the beauty of Lord Chaitanya is being broadcast, the beauty of Krishna is being broadcast, and also when we do book distribution, his beauty is being broadcast. So back to this point of he annihilates the miscreants. By doing book distribution, he's annihilating these miscreant ideas. Ultimately, there's so many nefarious ideas in Kali Yuga, impersonalism, Prabhupada was Sunyavadi Nirvishesha, impersonalism, voidism. But ultimately, by book distribution, these ideas are annihilated. I think in Arrival Address, Guru Maharaj also talked about this, how Krishna kills the demons in Kali Yuga, ultimately through instructions, the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. So if we really want to, wipe out these ideas of society, these perverse ideas of religion, we have to go out and we have to distribute these books, because that's how we eradicate these miscreant ideas. Because ultimately, Krishna, he is non-different from his books. Krishna has manifested in Prabhupada's books. So this next point, it says that those whose love of God is awakened to the fullest extent go back to Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky, whereas persons who have just awakened to love of God by accident or association are transferred to the Vaikuntha planets. And this is interesting. Like, by accident, you can go back to Godhead by accident. And I remember reading that, I was like, wow, that's crazy. If you think about it, because it's like, we're performing, we're chanting in the morning, we're performing these austerities. But then, by accident, somebody can go back to Godhead without necessarily even trying to develop love of God. The mercy of Krishna. So by accident, like I said, there are those as it says in the purport, there are those on the battlefield who they didn't have love for Krishna, but they weren't envious of him. So they appreciated his beauty, and by appreciating his beauty, they got liberated. Because ultimately, Krishna comes down to everybody on the battlefield got liberated, some form of liberation. Like Mr. Van Prabhu was saying, Shishupal, he got the liberation of oneness, but that was superficial. Ultimately, Shishupal went back to Godhead. But those who were enemies of Krishna, who had hate for Krishna, then they attained liberation, but not to the Goloka Vrindavan planets or even Vaikuntha, but they did it through the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Nonetheless, everybody got liberated on the battlefield, Kuru, etc. So what to say about us? Like we're guaranteed liberation. Nonetheless, a devotee doesn't aspire for it, because the devotee is already liberated. A devotee doesn't have to worry about being liberated, because just by chanting Hare Krishna, liberation ultimately means, in the basic sense, Prabhupada says liberation from material contamination, liberation from lusty ideas. So even like Mayavadis, they can attain a state of liberation. But what happens is, they don't, because they don't develop love for Krishna, they ultimately fall back down because they haven't developed spiritual activities. So, it's like I said, when we perform Sankirtan, even people who are envious, actually, they would say, "Oh, those Hare Krishnas, we hate them." Prabhupada said, "This is good." I think it was a news article or something, and they were blaspheming the devotees. And Prabhupada said, "This is good because they're saying Hare Krishna." So by accident, they're getting purified by accident. But there are also those who, they attack the devotees. These people, they go down the darkest regions of hell. I think it was what's his name is Mr. Nair in the Juhu temple. Yeah, so he was extremely envious of the devotees, extremely envious. And I believe he said that I'll never give you this temple. And I think within a week he died. That was over land, right? Did Prabhupada curse him? Or Prabhupada cursed him, right? He prayed for him to die. So, so we should know, if a pure devotee prays for you to die, that's it. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. So such people like this who want to have malice against devotees, they don't ever attain liberation. They go down to the darkest regions of hell, and they suffer perpetually lifetime after lifetime. But there are those they're envious out of ignorance. They don't know. They're like, "Oh, I don't really know about these Hare Krishnas." They say it and they get purified. So yeah, this is by accident. People are getting purified by accident. When we go on Harinam, we're chanting Hare Krishna. People are getting purified by accident. It's very important that we should go out. This is Yuga Dharma of the age. But by the association, we get purified by association. We fall in this category. Ultimately, we know too much about the philosophy to try to bank on getting liberated by accident. Ultimately, we are, because we started the path. But nonetheless, we should be serious that, Prabhupada is saying, we awaken our love of God by association. So we want to go to the topmost planet, Goloka Vrindavan. We can't do it by accident, actually. We have to do it by association. We have to be associated with pure devotees. And I think I was telling Bhakta Mason this, but the association of devotees is so powerful. If those who read the the fourth canto, so the Prashetas, the group of brothers, and they performed austerities for 10,000 of years underwater. Yeah, 10,000 years underwater, because under the instruction of the Father. And the Lord was so pleased with them that the Lord personally descended after their severe austerities and came to them. And the Lord asked them, "What benediction do you want from me? You've pleased me so much austerities. I'm pleased with your activities. I'm pleased with your devotion. Please tell me what benediction you want." And what benediction did they say? They asked for the association of devotees. Yeah, I remember reading that, and because when I first read it, I was like, "Oh, what benediction would I ask if Krishna came to me?" I was like, "I want a new car, I want this." But then I read that and it said, no, Brashetas, they wanted the association of devotees. It's really interesting. Out of all the material opulence they could have had, out of all the facilities, they asked for the association. Out of 10,000 years of austerities, they asked for the association of devotees. So this is very important. Ultimately, the association of devotees is the highest benediction one can have, because by associating with devotees, you're also associating with Krishna. Krishna says in the 9th canto, in the pastime with Durvasa Muni, he says that I am always in the heart of the devotee, and the devotee is always in my heart. So we attain Krishna by associating with his devotees, and the devotees are always chanting his glories, are always glorifying Krishna. Ultimately, we can try to practice Krishna consciousness by ourselves, but instead of association with devotees, we're going to associate with our mind. Our mind is not our friend. It says in Bhagavad Gita, our mind can be our friend or enemy, but now our mind has been contaminated after thousands of years of being in the material world. Our mind is not our friend. Our mind is our enemy right now. So if we think we can practice devotional service by ourselves, we're going to be forced to associate with our mind. We're going to be forced to go back down to samsara, the ocean of material existence. So this association of devotees is the highest benediction, the highest boon one can wish for. And it's easy to take this association lightly. Ultimately, we're all in the association of devotees. We've been practicing for some type of years. Some of us have been born into Vaishnava families, but we don't take it seriously sometimes. Sometimes we don't appreciate the great benediction of associating with devotees. Like I said, the Prashetas for 10,000 years, 10,000s of years, they perform austerities, and that's the benediction they want. Always to be in association with devotees. And even, the creeper of devotional service, we have a creeper of bhakti. It starts with sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, goes up to prema. But in Kali Yuga, ultimately, even at the highest stage, the pure devotees still want to associate. They still have this sadhu sangha. Huh? This? Oh, sorry. So ultimately, even the pure devotees, they still aspire for this association. So what's to say about us? We're on the, speaking for myself, I'm the lowest platform of devotional service. But yet the Prashetas, they're exalted and they ask for association. So we should be very mindful of the great boon we have. And we should understand that our love of God is awakening. It's gradual. But by associating, like Prabhupada says, with the devotees, we ultimately develop this love of God. And those who are elevated, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it says that, Prabhupada in the purport says that those who appreciate the beauty of Krishna's face and his lotus feet, they actually attain they attain to Vaikuntha planets. And we should understand that ultimately, there's no material difference between Vaikuntha and Goloka Vrindavan, because they're both in the spiritual planet. Nonetheless, devotees of Krishna specifically aspire for Goloka Vrindavan because Krishna's intimate pastimes are performed there. You get is the highest bliss is in Goloka Vrindavan, actually. Because ultimately this bliss comes through relationships. And there's a prayer by Ritrasura. You can pull this up. It's 6:12:22. You on it? I remember reading this, and this is like my favorite prayer in the Bhagavatam. 6:12:22. Yeah, go down. Go try. Yeah. So Ritrasura says, hold on. Yeah, a person fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord Hari, the Lord of the highest auspiciousness, swims in the ocean of nectar. For him, what is the use of water in small ditches? This is really beautiful. It's really beautiful. If you scroll down to the purport, go to the last sentence. I believe it says that. Yeah. So hold on. Go up a little bit. Go up a little bit. Go up. Yeah, right here. So. Yeah, devotees of Lord Vishnu may aspire for position in Vaikuntha Loka, but devotee of Krishna never aspires even for the facilities of Vaikuntha. He wants to return to Goloka Vrindavan and associate with Krishna in his eternal pastimes. So this is interesting. It's the highest bliss, the ocean of nectar is in Goloka Vrindavan. And ultimately, that's our destination because we're Krishna Bhaktas and we're trying to cultivate love for Krishna. And ultimately, not to even speak of the happiness of Goloka Vrindavan. What happiness is there in the material heavens? It was raining yesterday, and I was just chanting. I was just looking, and I was just thinking all these living entities are coming from heaven, literally, because it says that when you're in heaven, they come down through rain, and from the rain they go into the grains, and then you eat the grains, and then that's how they come back. So I was looking, I was like, wow, so many entities falling from heaven. They're falling from heaven through the rains. So what's the point? It's like happiness in the small ditch, like Ritrasura is saying. It's not tangible. There's no happiness in it. The real happiness is in Goloka Vrindavan. But yet, as devotees, we don't condemn those who are striving for the Vaikuntha Lokas. Ultimately, they're devotees. It's not like, oh, we're better than them. No, it's not like that. We show respect, we show gratitude, because ultimately, they're also on the path of liberation. It's just a different rasa. So, I'm running out of time already. But there's this point that's really important I want to talk about. So in the purport, Prabhupada says that, so ultimately, it's like I said, a lot of different points in this purport and translation. But so Arjuna, he helped assisted Krishna in diminishing the burden of the world by fighting, by shooting arrows. And Prabhupada says all the activities of a pure devotee are executed on behalf of the Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord has nothing to do for his personal interest. And it's really interesting because a pure devotee has nothing to do for his personal interest. But yet Arjuna, he fought, assisted the Lord. This is actually his real personal interest. Your personal interest is serving Krishna. Although not trying to, he's actually pursuing his personal interest without trying to, because your personal interest is serving Krishna by fulfilling the desires of Krishna. But nonetheless, a pure devotee doesn't necessarily do things for his own sake. He does it for Krishna's sake. And this is your personal interest. By serving Krishna, this is your personal interest. This is the only thing that can really make you happy. You know, so if we act to fulfill Krishna's desire, we're actually working for our personal interests. Because if we're not working to serve Krishna, then we're also going to be working for our senses. You know, we're only working for our senses. And by working for our senses, what's this verse in the Bhagavad Gita? It's Visayendriya samyoga yat tat agre matopamam pariname vishamiva tat sukam rajasam smritam. Activities in the mode of passion, they're like nectar in the beginning, but then they're poison in the end. So what happens is we work for our senses, it's like nectar, like, wow, like this is amazing, you know, like I feel blissful, I feel amazing. But then what happens over time, it turns to poison. On the other hand, activities in mode of goodness, it's like poison in the beginning, but it's nectar in the end. So when we chant our rounds in the morning, it can seem like, oh man, I can't do this. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of chanting. I'm tired of this. Wake up in the morning. Oh, I don't want to wake up. But yeah, it's poisonous because ultimately we have to train our mind to love Krishna. But Krishna guarantees the nectar's in the end. Nectar's in the end. We can try to strive for material gratification. It's going to be nectar in the beginning, but you're bound to suffer. So the intelligent person, he's going to make a decision. Okay, should I go through some austerity in the beginning to attain unlimited happiness in the end, or should I attain this immediate gratification? And ultimately, this generation is based off immediate gratification. That's why you don't see so many young men and women joining these temples, because they want to be instantly gratified. You know, Krishna consciousness, in one sense, you can be immediately gratified. I had an experience, and I was in Miami. I was breaking all the regs, but somehow Lord Chaitanya gave me a whole bunch of mercy when I first met the devotees. And it was nectar. It was nectar for me. And that actually, it was like a samskara that actually made me last in Krishna consciousness day. So yeah, Krishna gives you nectar in the beginning, but nonetheless, you still have to work for it. But as devotees, that shouldn't be our aspiration. Our aspiration, I just want the bliss. No, our aspiration should be higher than that. That's a good preliminary. Starting off, yeah, if that's your motivation, and it's not necessarily wrong. But the more you advance, the more you should realize that, no, I'm not doing this for my own pleasure. I'm doing it to love Krishna. I'm doing it to serve Krishna. But this is a really important point. Arjuna was acting as an instrument for Krishna. And by acting as an instrument for Krishna, the result becomes non-different from Krishna acting. But we should understand, Arjuna didn't lose his individuality. Although acting for an instrument for Krishna, he retained his individuality, but the result was Krishna's. Because Krishna used him as an instrument. My advice, they don't understand this. They think you become Krishna when God works through you. No, you don't become God. You retain your individuality, but God uses you as an instrument. We should understand this. And Arjuna was empowered to act. It says his arrows, when he shot, they purified all the opposing army. They purified all the arrows. Every single shot purified each person. And they were eligible to attain level of God just by Arjuna shooting. It wasn't Krishna shooting, it was Arjuna. But Krishna was using Arjuna as an instrument because Krishna told him to do it. So the result was Krishna's. So this is important. Arjuna became empowered to act. Once we become an instrument for Krishna, we become empowered. Krishna uses us and we become empowered. Just like understand Prabhupada, how can you understand a 70-year-old old man, and he's in his 70s, He had heart attacks coming to America, but he started an international movement within less than 7 years. Wrote I think 70 something books, started farm communities. How is this possible? What old man are you seeing doing these activities? The reason why he was doing it because he was empowered by Krishna. Krishna established this Krishna consciousness movement, and he did it through Prabhupada. Krishna did this. Just how also with his own temple. When I first came to Christian life, we were in Ram's house, and I didn't really understand what was going on. But then from Ram's house we went to Ponce, and then Ponce here. How is this? And you understand there are religious groups. It takes them years just to get a center like this. Especially starting off new. But within less than 4 or 5 years, we purchased $1 million temple. Understand this. This is Krishna's desire. Krishna life is Krishna's desire ultimately. And His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami is an instrument for that. He became empowered. He became empowered to start farm communities. He became empowered to start this center. So what does that mean for us? Ultimately, we're also ultimately, once we align with Krishna's desire, Krishna also wants to empower us. But we have to work for His desires. We have to be in line with His will in order to get this empowerment. But we don't seek this. We don't seek to be empowered. Nonetheless, Krishna wants to empower us because ultimately, like a president of the United States, he has this presidential cabinet. He can do these functions by himself, but he empowers his cabinet to do it. That's actually a symptom of his power is empowering others. So ultimately, we as members of the Christian consciousness movement, we should understand that we all have a purpose to fulfill in the mission of the Lord. Every one of us has a mission to fulfill. This actually says this in the Isopanishad in the purport of the fourth verse. I remember I read this and I put it on my home screen. It's really far. I don't want to read the whole thing, but I'll just read 2 sentences. It says, every part and parcel of the complete whole is endowed with some particular energy to act according to the Lord's will. All power is obtained from the Lord. Therefore, each particular power must be utilized to execute the will of the Lord and not otherwise. So what does this mean? Ultimately, we all have a purpose to fulfill. We all have some type of capability, and Krishna wants to empower us to further the movement. But once we forget who we are, once we forget ultimately that we're part and parcel of Krishna, then we lose this empowerment. We lose the ability to spread Krishna consciousness. So we have to understand, and once we get this empowered, so even when we do books, there are people who doing Bhagavatam sets. They're doing so many saptas, so many bhakti stacks. Ultimately, Krishna's empowering them. This is all Krishna's doing. We're not doing any of this. Krishna's empowering the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement. And ultimately, we understand how Krishna wants to use us as an instrument. We do it through time, or it comes to us over time. Ultimately, we have to understand that we are in a contaminated state. Krishna is the supreme pure. He's the supreme gentleman. A gentleman never wants to go in an impure place. Okay, so once we purify our own hearts, purify our own minds, then yes, Krishna will reveal to us what exactly He wants us to do to expand the Krishna consciousness. He'll give us a certain knowledge, empowerment to facilitate it. This Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, the Dami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mamu Payantite, Tesham Avanu Kampartam Mahama Gyana Jam Tamaha, Nasyam Yama Bhava Sogana Dipena Basvataha. Krishna gives you the intelligence to understand how He wants to use you as an instrument. He'll give you the intelligence. But it starts with being humble. Ultimately, as long as we're puffed up, as long as we're thinking, I'm a great devotee, Krishna, he has no reason to want to empower us. Because ultimately, we've been in this material world for thousands, countless of years. But through humility comes grace. So it is very important. And in the translation, it's interesting because it says that, what does it say? Yeah, it says that certainly others who have fighters on the battle Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows. So, I remember listening to a lecture, and Guru Maharaj was saying that ultimately, sharp words pierce worse than the arrows. So, although the arrows are purifying the soldiers, the arrows of Prabhupada's instructions are more purifying. Ultimately, the words they pierce harder the heart than arrows. So Prabhupada's instructions, they pierce our heart. When you first read them, a lot of people, it could be unpalatable because he's piercing you. He's telling you, you're a hog, you're a dog by performing sense gratification. But it's purifying. The more you read it, the more you get purified, the more you realize your constitutional position. And this last point, the very last sentence, it says that Uddhava seemingly lamented that his own position was less than that of the warriors in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because they had attained to Vaikuntha, whereas he remained to lament the disappearance of the Lord. This is interesting. Uddhava is a pure devotee. And there's a verse, I think it's 3:6 or 7, where it says that Uddhava was relishing the transcendental bliss and ecstasy of Krishna. He's relishing this, but yet he's lamenting because he feels like his position is less than the words of Kurukshetra. This is humility. This is the last sentence of the purport. I don't know. Yeah, but this is what I was talking about. Yeah, so yeah, all the transcendental body changes due to total ecstasy. And he was trying to wipe away tears of separation from his eyes. So thus Vidura could understand that Uddhava had completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord. He assimilated extensive love for the Lord, but yet he was feeling less than the words in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. This is humility. This is Trinada Peace Nichana. So in order to approach Krishna, we have to be humble. We have to be humble in order to approach Krishna. Krishna does not like pride. Vishnu Chitta was saying this in the class. Krishna does not like pride. You have to be humble to approach Krishna. And we have to understand, although we're practicing Krishna consciousness, we should never think that we're advanced devotees. Never think we should advance devotees. Even Prabhupada says that, Prabhupada in his whole humility said that he was fallen. And we know, Prabhupada, how can we understand this? So what's that to say about us? So the moment we think we're advanced, that's the moment we fall down. The very second you think you're advanced, that's the moment you fall down. So we have to understand, we are not devotees by default. We are demons by default. In the material world, we are demons. We've been here for 1,000 years. We are not devotees by default. In the spiritual world, we're devotees by default, but we haven't been there since time immemorial. So we're demons by default. What does that mean? The minute we stop practicing Krishna consciousness, we're going to perform demonic activities. So we should understand this humility of Uddhava. We should understand the real ecstasy of being humble. And we should never think that even if we get some empowerment to perform some service, playing mridanga or doing book distribution, cooking, whatever, ultimately this power is coming from Krishna, and Krishna, he wants to empower us, but he's only going to do so as long as we stay humble. And we never should forget the source of the power. Like I said, this Krishna Life Project is completely empowered by Krishna, and as long as we stay under the wills and desires of Krishna, we can be used as his instruments. So I'm supposed to stop at 8:30, right?
No, I have a question.
You have some questions? Okay, so I'll stop my class now, and I'll open up for questions and comments or corrections.
I just had one thing. In the beginning of the class, you were saying, like, we're liberated, like we're considered liberated. It is in my understanding of Prabhupada's mood and the way he taught us, we never consider ourselves like that.
Yeah.
So it's just, I know what I don't really know what you're trying to say, because Uddhava himself doesn't consider himself liberated. So
Yeah. We don't consider. I'm never saying we don't consider. We should never consider ourselves liberated. Well, I was saying Prabhupada said this: when we chant Hare Krishna, we're liberated. So we don't. It's like a.
He also said most of his disciples will go to the heavenly planets.
Yeah, exactly. But liberated from this, in the sense of like when we chant Hare Krishna, we become liberated from material desires. That's the point. That's what I said in the beginning, that Prabhupada, he says in the purport in Bhagavad Gita that, or I think Bhagavatam, that liberation means liberated from material ideas and material conception of life. So that's the point I was making. Not as far as like liberating from material ideas. So I was saying when you chant Hare Krishna, you become liberated from these material ideas. That's the point I was making.
Yeah, just I guess maybe I understood it a little bit wrong, but
yeah,
it seemed like it was just like indicated multiple times. But anyways, yeah, the idea is that the devotee himself, like Srila Prabhupada said, even he would teach us, I'm always praying to the deities so I never fall down.
Right.
So it's just like careful with that idea of like being liberated. Even that is there, but we never consider ourselves
Yeah, we
like
should.
that, right? It's an important point that it should be made that
That's true.
if great devotees like this are considering themselves like that, we should.
Right.
Anyways, we can understand what's in our own hearts.
Right.
So it's just a point.
No, you're right. I want to clarify that.
Yeah.
That's true, because that's why I try to make at the end what Uddhava was saying. You should be humble. That's a good point. I want to clarify that. Like, probably, yeah, when we chant Hare Krishna, we become liberated from mental ideas, but we should never consider ourselves liberated. That's a good point. I should have clarified that. We should never consider ourselves liberated, because that's also being puffed up. I was really saying that in conjunction with the point of these impersonalists, like they're striving so hard for liberation, but like devotee already has it. But we still, even having it, we shouldn't think that we've attained anything, because we still haven't really attained the love of Krishna yet. So yeah, thank you. I should clarify that.
There's one more thing I was just going to say. That the word for Gajendra, this one that comes in Vishnu Sahasranam, there's a string of names that comes in regards to which the acharyas, they comment in regard to, they always make a connection to Gajendra. And one of the ones that you were speaking about said was Shishiraya, which means one who rushes to the assistance of the helpless like Gajendra.
Yeah.
It's a nice one.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
I had a quick question. In the purport, I think it said in Golika Vrindavan, devotees have natural affection, where in Vaikuntha they have, I forget what the other.
It's like natural reverence.
Natural reverence.
Reverence.
Yeah. What's the difference, I guess?
Okay, ultimately you have 5 different rasas. You have that in neutrality. You have that in love. You have that in friendship. You have that in conjugal relations, and you have that in parent. So in Vaikuntha, they're in the neutral state of like appreciation, meaning that they see God as an opulent figure of worship. But in the higher you go up, they see Krishna as like a friend, and they see Krishna as like a lover, and that's why it's more bliss, because it's more like it's more rasa, it's more different aspects of that relationship, as far as just seeing God as like somebody who's opulent. That's the point.
I guess, like, could you say, like, Golika Vrindavan, like, Yogamaya makes it that they don't even realize that he's Krishna? I mean, he's God.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's literally what happened. Yeah, that's literally what it is.
Just in the instance that you accidentally end up in Vaikuntha, as a pure love, is there room that you can still go to Goloka Vrindavan, or is that an eternal position?
I have heard, I've been reading in Purport and Bhagavatam that it does say that if you're in Vaikuntha, ultimately it's up to if you develop some type of like higher like relationship with Krishna, such as like that in like friendship, then yeah, you go only those in Goloka Vrindavan, they have these different mellows. So I have heard that there are instances of devotees in Vaikuntha going to Goloka Vrindavan, yeah. Mitravan? You have a question?
One devotee is asking. Anyways, there's like I know where you're getting this from, and I looked it up.
We're talking about what?
This so the living entities come down from the heavens.
Yeah, from
He's
rain.
asking, is it all living entities, or is it just isn't it all living entities, or is it just from heaven?
No, from my understanding is in Bhagavad Gita it says that from heaven. Yeah, I don't think
that's what I've read. Also, I haven't read the other way.
I don't think all living entities come through rain. Because it makes sense though, because Indra, he's in charge of the rains,
Yeah.
and if you're going to the heavenly planets, then if he's in charge of the rains, he said.
That's what it says in. I haven't.
Yeah,
have
that's
you read
it.
anywhere else?
Yeah.
How they come, how like lower living entities from lower planets come?
We can take birth as a plant and then get eaten.
Huh?
We can take birth as a plant and then get eaten like that.
Oh yeah. I guess they don't have to come here.
I mean, it's like a gradual thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily that. It could be as an animal and then like attain a human and next birth. It's just like whatever that specific arrangement is there for the rain
Yeah.
to make it like dramatic. But it can go. You can go to any just like whatever like King. Was it Nriga? I think he was like you could go to heaven or you could go like as an animal.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
like if he went to heaven, then like he would like wind up as an animal after that. It's not necessarily that he would have to like take birth as a human or anything like that.
Yeah. Sure.
He
Sure.
could go from like
Specific meaning the rains that the living entities come down in the form of rain.
That's in the Bhagavad
Yeah.
Gita though.
That's in Gita and
Yeah.
Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
I've never read like how the living entities from lower planets exactly enter into
Yeah,
the
I don't
womb.
know.
That's only description. Is that's what's there?
I think Mitch. I think I've heard, they do it through like evolutionary process, right? where it's like, yeah, they come like gradually, like you're saying, and then from plants into insects, into birds, into stuff. Yeah. Madaji, Madaji, have a question?
So I'm still a little bit just like trying to understand like the past few classes again, and like even like in the purport, and you briefly mentioned on it about like the different stages of liberation, so to speak. So understanding now that we know that like not in every birth is Shishupal Jai. I think is he Jai? Yeah, if he's Jai or Jai, but but yeah. So not in every birth, that's the case. So could we is it maybe proper understanding to then understand? So when we're like reading the purport and it's talking about merging into the impersonal Brahmajyoti, could that maybe be those births that aren't Jai and Vijay? Would that be like one way to?
I think so. Michivan mentioned this in his class. So, I'm answering your question. Are you saying that he? Wait,
Yeah, so basically, like,
I have an answer, but I just want to make sure. I want to make sure I'm like answering the right question.
Yeah, so like in those births that aren't Jai and Vijay, maybe could those be when they're getting that impersonal Brahmajyoti?
No. So yeah, Michivan mentioned. So pretty much in their previous birth, they didn't attain liberation. They got material opulences. That's what Michivan, he did his research. Like what was it? It's Ravana when he came back. He didn't. You were saying only Krishna can give liberation. In relation to Krishna?
It says she's saying, well, in this particular pastime, is Shishupal,
Okay.
is Jaya Vijay.
Right.
So, obviously it's like a pastime of them in getting liberation.
Yeah.
So then if they're not Jaya and Vijay,
Yeah.
which apparently is not the case every time, do they just attain moksha, this type of moksha? It seems.
That's like something that's you should consult the acharyas about. I'm not really.
He doesn't give
Yeah.
personal liberation to all the demons. Buddha only got it to Keishi. We don't hear nothing about Keishi.
So it would be the same case.
He got liberation somehow, but we don't know.
Yeah, it's different. With each demon, it's like different. Like you said, like Putana, she got same form like as a mother.
He took the good side of it.
Yeah. So
Buddha got personal liberation.
yeah, but some like I said.
But it's not like Krishna is like obligated to give someone personal liberation.
It depends on Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't answer that only because you have to consult the chart. I'm not really like you're saying. So Krishna, when he wants to get somebody liberation, it's his personal boat. He will. If not, then it's not really up to us. I'm not really completely sure about that one. So.
So like here it says that like the warriors who saw Krishna's face achieved his abode, and I was just wondering like you hear that like warriors when they fight on the battlefield they generally attain like the heavenly planets, but like my question is, but if if these warriors were like pure devotees, would they go back to Godhead, or is it just like is this like a special case scenario where they, because they saw Krishna, went back to Godhead?
Yeah. So yeah, typically I think it does say that if you're fighting, then you're a Kshatriya. But these modern warriors are not really Kshatriyas. They're not going to heaven. I mean, maybe, I don't know. They're like demons. But like typically Kshatriyas who are following Vedic principles, they attain heavenly planets. But in this instance, the reason why is because Krishna was there. Like Mr. Yvonne said in his class, only Krishna can give liberation ultimately to the demons. So it was like another incarnation, like it was like Nrsimhadev on the battlefield or something. They wouldn't necessarily get liberation. Only Krishna gives liberation. And also, the demons, so it was different types of people on the opposite side. There were people who were completely envious, and there were those who, they were neutral, as the purport says. So those who were neutral, they went back to the Vaikuntha planets. But those who were completely envious, it says Shishupal, but that's like, he's more so like a representation, because he went back to Godhead. But those who were envious of Krishna, they went to the impersonal Brahmajyotis. But yeah, only Krishna can give liberation. As far as in today's context, these warriors are, I don't even know if they're even going to heaven. I don't know. What do you Yeah, they're not real Kshatriyas. They're not following any Vedic principles, and they're fighting for these like demonic principles. So, yeah. Tapas, come on, bro.
I had another one.
Okay.
I just had a comment. You were speaking a lot about how, like Krishna, he comes down to save his devotees, and you also gave the example of Gajendra. I was reading in the second canto about I don't remember exact words that Srila Prabhupada used, but he was saying that these scientists still use like spaceships to try to get to these different like planets and stuff. And then even the yogis, they'll use mind ships to get to different, planetary systems. And it was just nice to hear that like Krishna, he's all opulent, like he's everywhere, like he doesn't have to be in one space and like he's just there, he's everywhere, like in all of the universes. And I was just I was seeing that he's so merciful that he came down to save Gajendra. And also in the purport, if I remember correctly, he was saying that through sincere prayer that Krishna he acknowledges his devotees. So I was just making that comment. That was really
Sure.
nice.
Sure. That's a good point. Okay, anybody? Okay, Shima Bhagavatam ki jai.